Sophia paused outside the rarely used music room, cloth and polish still in hand. A sound caught her attention, the tentative press of a single piano key, then another. Someone was in there, though the family rarely used this wing of the massive house. She pushed the door open gently. Afternoon sunlight streamed through tall windows, dust particles dancing in the golden beams. At the grand piano sat 12-year-old Oliver Harrington, his fingers hovering uncertainly over the keys. "I'm sorry," Sophia said softly. "I didn't mean to disturb you." The boy's head turned toward her voice, his unseeing eyes wide with surprise. "I thought everyone was out. Your father is at a meeting. I'm just doing my rounds." Sophia had been working as a maid for the Harrington household for 8 months now. The pay was excellent, though Mr. Harrington was demanding and particular about how things should be done. Oliver nodded, his fingers still resting lightly on the keys. "I like how it feels when I press them. Each one sounds different." Sophia stepped closer, putting her cleaning supplies down on a side table. "Do you come here often?" "When Dad's not home." Oliver's face fell slightly. "He doesn't like me to be in here alone. Says I might hurt myself or damage something expensive." Sophia looked around the room. The piano was a magnificent instrument, a Steinway grand that probably cost more than she would make in 10 years. But it sat largely unused, a showpiece more than an instrument meant to create beauty. "Have you ever had lessons?" she asked, moving to stand beside the bench. Oliver shook his head. "Dad says there's no point." "Because I can't see." Something in Sophia's chest tightened at his words. "That's not true. Many blind people play piano beautifully. Some of the greatest musicians in history couldn't see." "Really?" Oliver's face brightened with interest. "Really?" Sophia hesitated, then asked, "Would you like to hear something?" When Oliver nodded eagerly, Sophia gently asked him to scoot over. She sat beside him on the bench, took a deep breath, and began to play. It had been years since her fingers had touched piano keys, not since she'd had to drop out of music school when her mother got sick. But some things the body remembers. She played a simple, cheerful melody, nothing complicated, just something to make the quiet room come alive. As the notes filled the space around them, she watched Oliver's expression transform. His face lit up with wonder, his head tilted slightly as he listened with complete attention. His fingers trembled slightly in his lap as if itching to join in. When she finished, the room felt different somehow, warmer, more alive. "That was beautiful," Oliver whispered. "Could you play more?" Sophia glanced at her watch. "I should finish my cleaning. Your father expects everything to be perfect when he returns. Please." Oliver's voice was soft, hopeful. "Just one more?" Sophia knew she shouldn't. Mr. Harrington was incredibly strict about staff sticking to their duties and not engaging with his son beyond basic pleasantries. But looking at Oliver's eager face, she couldn't bring herself to refuse. "All right, one more. Then I really need to get back to work." She played again, this time a lullaby her grandmother had taught her. When she finished, Oliver's hand reached out, finding the key she'd just played. "Could you teach me?" he asked suddenly. Sophia hesitated. "I don't think your father would approve." "He doesn't have to know." Oliver's fingers pressed gently on a key, producing a soft tone. "He's always busy anyway, and when he's home he mostly works in his office." Sophia knew she should say no. Teaching the son of her employer in secret could cost her this job, a job she desperately needed to help support her younger sister through college. Yet looking at Oliver, at how his face had come alive with the music, she found herself considering it. "Have you asked your father for lessons?" Oliver nodded, his expression falling. "Many times. He always says the same thing, that it would be a waste of money since I can't see the notes or the keys, that I should focus on things that make sense for someone like me." Sophia felt a flash of anger at Theodore Harrington. For all his wealth and power, how could he be so blind himself? Music wasn't about seeing. It was about feeling, hearing, understanding with the heart. "What if—" Sophia started, knowing she might regret what she was about to suggest. "What if I taught you a little?" "Just the basics." Oliver's face lit up like a sunrise. "You would do that, really?" "I'm not a professional teacher," Sophia warned. "I had 3 years at the conservatory before I had to quit. But I could show you how to start." "When? How?" Oliver was practically bouncing with excitement. Sophia thought quickly. "Your father has his business dinner every Thursday evening, right? And Mrs. Lopez, the cook, always leaves after preparing his lunch on those days." Oliver nodded eagerly. I clean this wing on Thursdays. If you happen to be here practicing when I came to dust. She let the implication hang in the air. No one would know, Oliver finished, a wide smile spreading across his face. But, Sophia added firmly, this has to be our secret. I could lose my job if your father found out. I won't tell anyone, I promise. Oliver's excitement was contagious. Not even Helen. Helen was his nanny, a kind but chatty woman who almost certainly couldn't keep such a secret. Sophia nodded, then remembered he couldn't see the gesture. Okay then, we'll start next Thursday. Just the very basics, and thank you, Sophia. Thank you. Oliver's hands found hers on the piano bench, squeezing them gratefully. A noise from the hallway made Sophia jump up. I need to finish my work. Remember, not a word to anyone. Not a word. Oliver agreed solemnly. Sophia gathered her cleaning supplies and hurried out, her mind racing. What had she just agreed to? If Mr. Harrington found out, she'd be fired immediately. But the memory of Oliver's face when she played, the way his expression had transformed with pure joy. How could she deny him that? Thursday couldn't come soon enough. When it did, Sophia finished her other tasks quickly, then made her way to the music room. Her heart sank when she found it empty.
Had Oliver forgotten?
Or worse, had he told someone? She began dusting half-heartedly, disappointment settling over her. Then the door creaked open and Oliver slipped inside, moving carefully with his white cane. Sorry I'm late, he whispered, a conspiratorial smile on his face. Helen wanted to read me another chapter of our book. Relief flooded through Sophia. It's okay. We have about an hour before your father gets home. That first lesson was simple, teaching Oliver the layout of the piano, the names of the notes, how to position his hands properly. His fingers were quick and nimble, his memory remarkable. By the end of their hour, he could play a 5-note scale with both hands and remembered exactly where middle C was located. You're a natural, Sophia told him truthfully as their time came to an end. Oliver beamed with pride. When can we do it again? Same time next week, Sophia promised. And maybe you could practice a little when no one's around. Just the things I showed you today. I will, Oliver said solemnly. Every day. As weeks turned into months, their secret lessons continued. Oliver progressed rapidly, his natural talent undeniable. Sophia brought simple sheet music and patiently taught him to read it by feel, using a method she'd researched at the library on her day off. The transformation in Oliver was remarkable. Once quiet and withdrawn, he now hummed melodies under his breath and tapped rhythms on his leg during meals. His father, always distracted by business, didn't seem to notice the change in his son. Sophia found herself looking forward to Thursdays with an excitement she hadn't felt in years. Teaching Oliver rekindled her own love for music, a passion she'd been forced to set aside when reality and bills had come calling. You should have been a teacher, Oliver told her one day after mastering a particularly challenging piece. You're better than the tutors Dad hires for my other subjects. Sophia smiled, though a familiar ache tugged at her heart. In another life, perhaps she would have been a music teacher or even a performer, but her mother's illness had changed everything, draining their savings and forcing Sophia to drop out of the conservatory to work full-time. In another world, maybe, she said lightly, but then I wouldn't be here teaching you, would I? As their 6th month of secret lessons approached, Sophia realized something had changed in her too. This big, cold mansion no longer felt like just a workplace. For 1 hour each week, it contained something magical. The joy of watching a talented young boy discover music, despite the barriers the world had placed before him. Little did she know that their musical secret was about to be discovered, with consequences neither of them could imagine. 6 months into their secret lessons, Sophia couldn't believe how far Oliver had come. What had started as simple scales and basic melodies had blossomed into something remarkable. The boy had a gift, there was no other way to describe it. His fingers moved across the keys with growing confidence, and his memory for music was extraordinary. Once he learned a piece, it stayed with him perfectly. You're playing that much better than I ever did, Sophia told him one Thursday afternoon as he finished a Bach minuet she'd taught him the previous week. Oliver's face flushed with pleasure at the compliment. I practiced every night after Dad went to bed. Just very quietly. You must have been practicing a lot. Your timing is perfect. Oliver's unseeing eyes seemed to sparkle. Music makes sense to me. It's like I can see with my ears instead of my eyes. Sophia felt a warmth spread through her chest. In the polished, cold atmosphere of the Harrington mansion, these Thursday afternoons had become something precious to her too. A reminder of the dreams she'd once had. What was it like? Oliver asked suddenly. Music school, I mean, Sophia sighed, letting her hands rest on the keys beside his. It was wonderful. Hard work, but wonderful. Everyone there loved music as much as I did. We'd practice until our fingers hurt, then practice some more. Why did you leave? Oliver's question was innocent, but it touched on wounds that still felt fresh. My mom got sick, Sophia said simply. Cancer. The medical bills piled up and someone had to work. I had a little sister who was still in high school. I'm sorry, Oliver said softly. Is your mom okay now? Sophia swallowed hard. She passed away 2 years ago. But my sister just started college, thanks partly to this job. Oliver was quiet for a moment, then his hand found hers on the piano. I think your mom would be proud of you, and I bet she'd like that you're teaching me. Sophia blinked back unexpected tears. I think she would too. She always said music was meant to be shared. She took a deep breath and smiled, though Oliver couldn't see it. Now should we try something new today? Oliver nodded eagerly. Something harder? Actually, Sophia said, pulling sheet music from her bag. I thought we might try something special. Your father's birthday is coming up in 3 weeks, right? Yes. There's always a big party, though I usually just make an appearance and then go back to my room. Dad's business friends aren't very interesting. Sophia placed the music on the piano stand, then guided Oliver's fingers to feel the raised dots she'd added to mark key positions. What if you played something for him? As a surprise? Oliver's mouth fell open. You mean, tell him about our lessons? Eventually we'll have to, Sophia said gently. And wouldn't it be wonderful to show him how much you've learned? How wrong he was about you not being able to play. Oliver's expression was a mix of excitement and fear. What if he gets angry? About the secret lessons? He might, Sophia admitted. With me, not with you. But once he hears you play, I think he'll understand why we did it. Oliver thought for a moment, then nodded decisively. Okay, what song did you pick? It's called To a Wild Rose, and it's beautiful but not too difficult. The perfect piece to show your talent without being overwhelming. For the next hour, they worked on the new piece. Oliver caught on quickly as always, his sensitive fingers finding the right notes, the right feeling. By the end of their session, he had the first page nearly memorized. This is going to be the best birthday present Dad has ever gotten, Oliver said as they finished. Sophia smiled. Just keep practicing when you can. We have 3 more lessons before the party. As she gathered her things to leave, Oliver called her name. Sophia, thank you. Not just for teaching me piano, but for believing I could do it. Those words stayed with Sophia long after she'd left the music room. In her small apartment that evening, she found herself sitting at her keyboard. A cheap electric one, nothing like the magnificent Steinway at the Harringtons, playing through To a Wild Rose, imagining Theodore Harrington's face when he heard his son play it. Would he be angry at first? Almost certainly. Would he fire her? Possibly. But surely once he heard Oliver play, once he saw how music had opened up a new world for his son, he would understand. The next 3 Thursdays flew by. Oliver practiced diligently, and the piece took shape beautifully under his fingers. Sophia had rarely seen a student progress so quickly, with such natural musicality. I think you're ready, she told him on their final lesson before the birthday party. Just remember to breathe before you start and take your time. What if I mess up? Oliver asked, a tremor in his voice. Then you keep going, Sophia said firmly. Everyone makes mistakes, even professional pianists. The audience rarely notices if you don't draw attention to it. Oliver nodded, taking a deep breath. Will you be there? At the party? Sophia shook her head, then remembered to speak her answer. No, the household staff isn't invited to family events. But I'll be working in the kitchen, helping Mrs. Lopez with the catering. I'll try to sneak out and listen when you play. The day of the party arrived. Sophia spent the morning helping with preparations, polishing silverware until it gleamed and arranging flowers in crystal vases throughout the house. The music room piano had been tuned the day before, a regular maintenance that had nothing to do with their plan, but which Sophia took as a good omen. By evening, the mansion was transformed. Lights glowed warmly in every room. The scent of Mrs. Lopez's gourmet cooking filled the air. and the sounds of arriving guests echoed through the grand foyer. From the kitchen, Sophia could hear the murmur of conversations, the clink of glasses, occasional laughter. She worked steadily, washing dishes and preparing serving trays, but her mind was with Oliver. Was he nervous? Would he remember everything they'd practiced? Just after 9 o'clock, when Mr. Harrington would be opening his gifts in the main salon, Sophia slipped away. She stood in the hallway outside, peeking through the partially open door. Oliver sat near his father, looking small in his formal clothes, hands folded in his lap. Mr. Harrington was unwrapping a large box, smiling at the expensive watch inside. "Thank you, Richard, very thoughtful," he said to one of his business partners. Then Oliver stood up. "Dad, I have a present for you, too." Theodore Harrington looked surprised. "You do?" Helen didn't mention anything. "Helen doesn't know," Oliver said, his voice steady despite what Sophia knew must be intense nerves. "It's a surprise for everyone." A curious murmur went through the gathered guests. Oliver made his way carefully to the grand piano in the corner of the salon, his white cane tapping softly on the hardwood floor. Mr. Harrington's brow furrowed. "Oliver, what are you doing?" Oliver found the bench and sat down, his back straight just as Sophia had taught him. "I've been learning something, Dad. Something I think you'll like." Before his father could respond, Oliver placed his hands on the keys and began to play. The room fell silent. To a wild rose filled the space, each note clear and deliberate. Oliver played with feeling beyond his years, the simple, beautiful melody flowing from his fingers as naturally as breath. Sophia watched Mr. Harrington's face transform from confusion to disbelief to something she couldn't quite read. His eyes never left his son's hands as they moved across the keyboard. When Oliver finished, there was a moment of complete silence. Then the room erupted in applause. Guests rose to their feet, exclaiming over the unexpected performance. Oliver sat at the piano, a shy smile on his face, his unseeing eyes bright with accomplishment. Mr. Harrington stood frozen for several seconds before walking slowly to the piano. "Oliver," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "that was extraordinary. When did you learn to play like that?" This was the moment of truth. Sophia held her breath. "Sophia's been teaching me," Oliver said proudly. "Every Thursday for 6 months. Sophia?" Mr. Harrington's head turned, scanning the room. "The maid?" Sophia's heart pounded. She should step forward, explain herself, face whatever consequences came. But before she could move, Mrs. Lopez appeared beside her. "Sophia, there you are. We need help with the dessert trays immediately." Reluctantly, Sophia followed her back to the kitchen, throwing one last glance over her shoulder. Mr. Harrington was kneeling beside Oliver at the piano, his hand on his son's shoulder, their heads close together in conversation. Whatever was being said, whatever was about to happen, one thing was certain: their secret was out. All Sophia could do now was wait and see what tomorrow would bring. Sophia barely slept that night. She tossed and turned, playing out different scenarios in her head. Would she arrive at work tomorrow to find her things packed? Would security escort her off the property? Or would Mr. Harrington understand why she had done it? By morning, she had convinced herself that the worst was coming. She dressed for work with shaking hands, wondering if this would be her last day at the Harrington mansion. The house was quiet when she arrived, still recovering from last night's party. Empty glasses and plates had been gathered but not yet washed. Flower arrangements drooped slightly in their vases. Sophia set to work cleaning, moving from room to room, waiting for the axe to fall. It was nearly 10 o'clock when Mrs. Lopez found her. "There you are," the cook said, wiping her hands on her apron. "Mr. Harrington wants to see you." In his office, Sophia's heart sank. "Now?" Mrs. Lopez nodded, her expression serious. "Right away," he said. Sophia took a deep breath, smoothed her uniform, and made her way to Theodore Harrington's office. She knocked softly on the heavy wooden door. "Come in," came his voice from inside. Mr. Harrington sat behind his massive desk, papers spread out before him. He didn't look up when she entered, just gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit down, Sophia." She perched on the edge of the chair, hands folded tightly in her lap. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the ticking of the antique clock on the wall. Finally, Mr. Harrington looked up. His face was unreadable. "My son tells me you've been giving him piano lessons. In secret for 6 months. Sophia swallowed hard. Yes, sir. Why? The question caught her off guard. She had expected accusations, anger, immediate dismissal, not this calm inquiry. Because he wanted to learn, she said simply, and because he could. He has a gift for it. A gift, Mr. Harrington repeated, leaning back in his chair. And you discovered this, how? Sophia explained finding Oliver in the music room that day, playing him a simple melody, seeing his response. He told me you didn't think he could learn because he's blind. But that's not true. Many blind pianists— I know about blind pianists, Mr. Harrington cut her off. Stevie Wonder. Ray Charles. I'm not an ignorant man, Sophia. Then why? It wasn't about his blindness. Mr. Harrington stood up abruptly, walking to the window that overlooked the garden. It was about his mother. Sophia remained silent, confused by this turn in the conversation. Claire, my wife, was a concert pianist, he continued, his back to Sophia. She traveled the world performing before we met. Music was everything to her. His voice grew softer. When she died giving birth to Oliver, I couldn't bear to hear it anymore. I closed the music room, canceled my symphony subscription, sold her records. He turned back to face Sophia. When Oliver first asked for lessons, he was 5 years old. I couldn't sit in that house and listen to the same instrument, the same songs. He trailed off. Sophia felt a wave of understanding wash over her. It wasn't cruelty or lack of belief in his son that had motivated Mr. Harrington's refusal. It was grief, I think, she said carefully, that your wife would have wanted her son to share her love of music, to have that connection with her. Mr. Harrington's jaw tightened. You didn't know my wife. No, Sophia agreed. But I know how much Oliver loves playing, how quickly he learns, how it's opened up a new world for him. She took a deep breath. If you fire me for teaching him, I understand. But please don't take the music away from him again. Mr. Harrington stared at her for a long moment. Then he returned to his desk and sat down heavily. You're fired, Sophia. Though she had been expecting it, the words still hit her like a physical blow. She nodded and stood up, dignity intact despite the tears threatening to spill. I understand, sir. I'll collect my things. I can't have staff who go behind my back, Mr. Harrington continued, his voice hard, who make decisions about my son's upbringing without my knowledge or consent, no matter how well-intentioned. Yes, sir, Sophia said quietly, turning to leave. Dad, no. Oliver stood in the doorway, his face pale with distress. You can't fire Sophia. She's the best teacher I've ever had. Oliver, this is not your concern, Mr. Harrington said firmly. Adults have made a decision. It is my concern. Oliver's voice rose, his hands balled into fists at his sides. You never asked me what I wanted. You never even gave me a chance to try. Oliver, Mom would have let me learn. The words exploded from the boy with such force that both adults fell silent. She would have wanted me to play, and you know it. Mr. Harrington's face drained of color. In the 8 months Sophia had worked there, she had never heard anyone mention Oliver's mother to his father's face. Oliver wasn't finished. Sophia taught me because she believed in me. She didn't treat me like I was broken or fragile. She just showed me how the keys worked and trusted me to learn them. His voice broke slightly. Please, Dad, don't take this away from me. And don't punish Sophia for being kind to me. The silence that followed was heavy with emotion. Sophia stood frozen, caught between father and son, unsure what to do. Finally, Mr. Harrington spoke, his voice strained. Go to your room, Oliver. I need to finish talking with Sophia. But Dad, now please. Oliver's shoulders slumped in defeat. He turned to leave, then paused. Sophia, he said quietly, thank you. For everything. Then he was gone, the tap of his cane fading down the hallway. Mr. Harrington waited until the sound disappeared, then turned back to Sophia. As I was saying, you're fired as a maid. Sophia nodded, fighting to keep her composure. However, he continued, I'd like to offer you a new position, as Oliver's piano teacher. Officially, Sophia stared at him, certain she had misheard. I'm sorry. Twice a week, 2 hours per session. I'll pay you double your current hourly rate. He picked up a pen, making a note on a pad of paper. And I expect a monthly progress report. I don't understand, Sophia said, her mind struggling to catch up with this sudden reversal. You just said, I can't have a maid who goes behind my back, Mr. Harrington repeated. But apparently my son needs a piano teacher. And despite your Unorthodox approach, you seem to be good at it. Sophia sank back into the chair, stunned. Mr. Harrington, I don't know what to say. Say yes or no, he replied briskly. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. Yes, Sophia said quickly. Of course, yes. Good. He made another note. You'll continue your regular duties until I can hire a replacement. Helen will arrange the teaching schedule with you. Sophia nodded, still trying to process what had just happened. One more thing, Mr. Harrington said, his tone softening slightly. That piece he played last night. It was beautiful. It was all him, Sophia replied honestly. I just showed him the notes. The feeling, the musicality, that's all Oliver. Something flickered in Mr. Harrington's eyes. Pride, perhaps, or wonder. He has his mother's talent. The words seemed to cost him something to say. Sophia stood, sensing the conversation was over. Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Harrington. I won't let you down. Or Oliver. He nodded, already turning his attention back to the papers on his desk. Close the door on your way out. In the hallway, Sophia leaned against the wall, her legs suddenly weak with relief. Not fired, instead promoted to do what she loved, teach music. She could hardly believe it. Sophia. Oliver appeared around the corner, his face anxious. What happened? Did Dad fire you? A smile broke across Sophia's face. No, Oliver. Actually, he hired me as your official piano teacher. Oliver's mouth fell open, then stretched into a delighted grin. Really? He's letting me take lessons? Twice a week, Sophia confirmed. Starting as soon as they find a new maid. Oliver launched himself forward, arms outstretched. Sophia caught him in a hug, laughing as he nearly knocked her over with his enthusiasm. I knew he'd understand once he heard me play, Oliver said, his voice muffled against her shoulder. I just knew it. Sophia smiled, though she suspected the reality was more complicated. Theodore Harrington was a man carrying deep wounds, ones that might never fully heal. But today he had taken a small step toward something new. For his son's sake, we should celebrate, she said, releasing Oliver from the hug. How about I teach you a new piece this Thursday? Something challenging. Oliver nodded eagerly. Something by Mozart? Or Beethoven? Whatever you want, Sophia promised. The whole world of music is open to you now. As they walked together down the hallway, discussing possibilities for Oliver's next piece, Sophia felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the sunshine streaming through the windows. Sometimes life took unexpected turns. 6 months ago, she had been just a maid with abandoned dreams. Now those dreams were finding new life through Oliver's talent. And somewhere, she thought, Oliver's mother must be smiling. 3 months passed quickly. Spring turned to summer, bringing longer days and warm breezes that drifted through the open windows of the music room. Sophia no longer cleaned the Harrington mansion. A new maid named Lucia had taken over those duties. Instead, Sophia came 3 times a week now, not the original 2 they had agreed upon, because Oliver's progress had been so remarkable that Mr. Harrington had suggested the additional lesson. Sophia arrived for Tuesday's lesson to find Oliver already at the piano, practicing a particularly challenging passage from the Chopin piece they'd started the previous week. That sounds much better, she said, setting her bag down on a nearby chair. You've been practicing. Oliver turned toward her voice with a bright smile. 2 hours every day, just like you said. Dad even pushed back my math tutor so I could have more time at the piano. This small detail surprised Sophia. Over the past months, Theodore Harrington had gradually shown more interest in his son's musical education, occasionally lingering in the doorway during lessons or asking Oliver to play something after dinner. But to actually rearrange Oliver's strict schedule to accommodate more practice time, that was new. Well, it's definitely paying off, Sophia said, sitting beside him on the bench. Let's hear the whole piece from the beginning. Oliver nodded, positioned his hands, and began to play. The notes flowed beautifully, his touch confident and expressive. Sophia watched his face as he played, the slight furrow of concentration between his brows, the way his unseeing eyes closed sometimes when he reached a particularly emotional passage. At 12 years old, he played with a sensitivity that many adult pianists would envy. When he finished, she squeezed his shoulder gently. That was beautiful, Oliver. I think you're ready. Ready? Oliver turned toward her, his expression curious. For what? Sophia took a deep breath. She had been thinking about this for weeks, but hadn't been sure when the right time would come. There's a young musicians recital at the community center next month. I think you should perform. Oliver's face registered surprise, then excitement, quickly followed by doubt. A real recital? With other people listening? Yes. Students from all over the city will be playing. Different ages, different skill levels. Sophia kept her voice calm, matter of fact, though she felt a flutter of nervousness herself. You're more than good enough, Oliver. Your Chopin would be perfect for it. Oliver bit his lip. What about Dad? Do you think he'd let me? I think we should ask him, Sophia said. Together. They found Mr. Harrington in his study after the lesson, his reading glasses perched on his nose as he reviewed documents. He looked up when they knocked, his expression softening slightly at the sight of his son. How was the lesson? He asked, setting his papers aside. Very good, Sophia answered. In fact, that's why we're here. Oliver has progressed so quickly that I believe he's ready for something new. She explained about the recital, watching Mr. Harrington's face carefully as she spoke. To her surprise, he didn't immediately refuse. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, considering. A public performance, he said thoughtfully. That's a big step. I want to try, Dad, Oliver said quietly. I think I'm ready. Mr. Harrington was silent for a long moment, then he asked, This piece, the Chopin, would your mother have approved of it for a first recital? The question hung in the air. In the months since Oliver's birthday revelation, Mr. Harrington had begun very occasionally to mention his late wife. Each mention felt like a door cracking open just slightly. I think she would have loved it, Sophia answered honestly. It's challenging but not overly showy. Perfect for displaying Oliver's technical skill and musicality. Mr. Harrington nodded slowly. Then yes, he can participate. Oliver's face lit up with joy. Really? Thank you, Dad. On one condition, Mr. Harrington added, his voice turning serious. I want to attend your practices from now until the recital. To see your progress. Sophia and Oliver exchanged surprised glances. In all these months, Mr. Harrington had never actually sat through a full lesson. Of course, Sophia said. You're always welcome. True to his word, Theodore Harrington began attending Oliver's lessons. At first, he sat stiffly in a chair by the window, barely speaking. But as the weeks passed, something in him seemed to thaw. He began to offer occasional comments, memories of concerts he had attended with Claire, technical observations that revealed he knew far more about piano than he had let on. Your mother would adjust her posture just like that before a difficult passage, he remarked one day, when Oliver straightened his back before attempting a challenging section. The boy had frozen at the comment, then smiled so broadly it looked like his face might split in two. These small glimpses into his mother's life were precious gifts to Oliver. Sophia watched as father and son began to build a bridge between them, note by note, memory by memory. The day of the recital arrived warm and sunny. Oliver wore a new suit, his hair neatly combed, his hands steady despite what Sophia knew must be significant nerves. Remember, she told him as they waited backstage at the community center, just like we practiced, take a deep breath before you start, and imagine you're in the music room at home. Oliver nodded, his fingers tapping out the rhythm of the piece against his leg. What if I make a mistake? Then you keep going, Mr. Harrington answered before Sophia could speak. He had been unusually quiet all morning. That's what your mother always said. The music continues no matter what. Oliver reached out, finding his father's hand and squeezing it. Did she get nervous before performances too? A small smile touched Mr. Harrington's lips. Terribly nervous. She used to pace backstage until they called her name. But the moment her fingers touched the keys, the nerves disappeared. A volunteer appeared with a clipboard. Oliver Harrington? You'll be up after Lisa Chen. Sophia could feel Oliver's tension as they listened to the current performer, a girl playing a Mozart sonata with technical precision, if not much emotion. When the applause came, Oliver stood, unfolding his white cane. I can do this, he whispered, more to himself than to them. Sophia squeezed his shoulder. Yes, you can. They watched from the wings as Oliver made his way carefully to the grand piano at center stage. There was a small murmur from the audience as they noticed his cane, his unseeing eyes. Then silence as he found the bench, adjusted it slightly and sat down. For a breathless moment, Oliver simply sat with his hands in his lap. Sophia wondered if stage fright had frozen him. Then she saw him take a deep breath, lift his hands to the keys, and begin to play. The Chopin Nocturne filled the auditorium, each note clear and purposeful. Oliver played with a sensitivity that belied his years, his face serene with concentration. Sophia glanced at Mr. Harrington beside her and was startled to see tears tracking silently down his cheeks. When the final notes faded, there was a moment of complete silence. Then the audience erupted in applause, rising to their feet almost as one. Oliver sat at the piano, a shy smile spreading across his face as the applause continued. "He needs to bow, Mr. Harrington murmured, wiping hastily at his eyes. Sophia nodded. "We practiced that too." Sure enough, Oliver stood carefully, turned toward the sound of the applause, and gave a small, dignified bow before making his way back toward the wings, his cane tapping lightly on the stage floor. The moment he was off stage, Mr. Harrington enfolded him in a tight embrace. "Your mother would have been so proud," he whispered hoarsely. "So very proud." Over his father's shoulder, Oliver's unseeing eyes shone with tears and triumph. The rest of the recital passed in a blur. Oliver won the Most Promising Newcomer Award, presented by a local music professor who remarked on his exceptional musicality. Fellow piano students and their parents came to congratulate him, asking how long he had been playing, who his teacher was. "Just a year," Oliver answered, his face flushed with happiness. "And this is my teacher, Sophia Mendez." Sophia found herself shaking hands with parents who asked if she had openings for other students, complimenting Oliver's technique, his poise, his expression. It was surreal, like stepping into a dream she had abandoned years ago when she left the conservatory. As they drove home in Mr. Harrington's car, Oliver clutching his award certificate, Sophia stared out the window, lost in thought. What would her mother have thought seeing her teaching again? What would her professors at the conservatory say if they could see her student performing Chopin after just a year of lessons? "Sophia," Mr. Harrington's voice broke into her thoughts. "I'd like to speak with you when we get home in my office." A flicker of anxiety ran through her. Had she done something wrong? Was he unhappy with Oliver's performance? When they arrived back at the mansion, Oliver went upstairs to change out of his formal clothes, still riding the high of his success. Sophia followed Mr. Harrington to his office, trying to quell her nervousness. He closed the door behind them and motioned for her to sit. Then, instead of taking his usual place behind the desk, he sat in the chair beside hers. "Today meant more to me than I can express," he began, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "Seeing Oliver play like that, hearing Claire's music come to life again through our son." He paused, collecting himself. "I owe you an apology, Sophia, and my deepest gratitude." Sophia blinked in surprise. "There's no need—" "There is," he interrupted gently. "I was wrong. About Oliver, about music, about many things." He looked down at his hands. "Grief can make you blind to what's right in front of you. I couldn't see that by denying Oliver music. I was denying him a connection to his mother. To himself." Sophia remained quiet, sensing he had more to say. "I'd like to propose something," Mr. Harrington continued. "Oliver clearly has exceptional talent. He deserves the best training available." He looked up, meeting her eyes directly. "I want to send him to the Westridge Academy of Music for their summer program, and I want you to go with him as his primary teacher." Sophia's mouth fell open. Westridge was one of the most prestigious music schools in the country, the kind of place she had once dreamed of attending herself. "Mr. Harrington, I don't know what to say. Westridge it's an incredible opportunity. For both of you," he said firmly. "I've already spoken with the director. They're very interested in Oliver and in you as well. They have a scholarship program for teachers continuing their education alongside gifted students." Sophia felt as if the room were spinning. "You mean you could complete your degree while teaching Oliver, if that's something you want?" Tears sprang to Sophia's eyes. The dream she had abandoned years ago, suddenly within reach again. "Why would you do this for me?" she asked softly. Mr. Harrington smiled, a real smile that transformed his usually serious face. "Because you gave my son back his music, and in doing so, you gave me back a piece of Claire. Some debts can never be repaid, Sophia, but I can try." 1 year later, Sophia stood in the wings of the Westridge Academy Concert Hall, watching as stagehands made final adjustments to the grand piano at center stage. Her heart beat quickly in her chest, not for herself but for Oliver, who waited beside her, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, his face a mixture of excitement and nerves. "Big crowd out there," she said, peeking through the curtains at the packed auditorium. "How big?" Oliver asked, his fingers tapping rhythmically against his leg. "At least 500 people. The end-of-year showcase always draws music lovers from across the city." Oliver took a deep breath. "Bigger than the community center." "Much bigger," Sophia agreed. "But you're ready." And he was. The past year at Westridge had transformed both their lives in ways Sophia could never have imagined. For Oliver, the academy had opened doors to advanced training, to mentorship from world-class musicians, to friendships with other young pianists who shared his passion. For Sophia, it had meant returning to her own education, finally completing the degree she had abandoned years ago while continuing to work as Oliver's primary teacher. 5 minutes. "Mr. Harrington," the stage manager said, checking something off on his clipboard. Oliver nodded, his expression growing more serious. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object, a smooth stone that he turned over in his palm. "What's that?" Sophia asked. "Dad gave it to me this morning." He said. Oliver's voice grew softer. "He said it was Mom's. She kept it in her pocket during every performance for good luck." Sophia felt a lump form in her throat. In the years since Oliver's first recital, Theodore Harrington had changed in ways both subtle and profound. The cold, distant man she had first met as an employer had gradually opened up, sharing more memories of Claire with their son, attending every one of Oliver's performances, even occasionally playing the piano himself late at night when he thought no one was listening. "That's a wonderful gift," Sophia said, a connection to her today of all days. Oliver closed his fingers around the stone. "I just want to make them both proud." "You already have," came a deep voice from behind them. They turned to find Mr. Harrington approaching, elegant in a dark suit, his expression warm as he looked at his son. "Dad, I thought you were sitting in the audience." "I wanted to wish you luck backstage first," Mr. Harrington said, placing a hand on Oliver's shoulder. "Though you don't need luck. You've worked incredibly hard for this moment." Oliver smiled, some of the tension leaving his face. "Did Mom get nervous before big performances like this?" "Every time," Mr. Harrington said with a small laugh. "Even after 20 years on stage. She said the day she stopped feeling nervous would be the day she stopped caring about the music." The stage manager reappeared. 2 minutes, Mr. Harrington." Mr. Harrington squeezed his son's shoulder. "I'll be in the front row. Just play it the way you feel it, son." As Mr. Harrington headed back to his seat, Sophia turned to Oliver for one final check. She straightened his tie, though it was already perfect. "Remember, if anything happens, we keep going," Oliver finished with a smile. "The music continues no matter what." "Exactly." Sophia hugged him quickly. "You're going to be amazing." Then it was time. The dean of the academy stepped onto the stage to introduce the final performer of the evening. Oliver Harrington, performing his original composition, Mother's Memory. The audience applauded as Oliver made his way confidently to the piano, his cane tapping lightly against the polished floor. He no longer needed guidance to find the bench to position himself correctly. A year of performing had given him a poise and assurance that made his blindness seem almost incidental to the audience. Sophia held her breath as Oliver placed his hands on the keys. Then he began to play, and the world around her fell away. The piece was Oliver's first major composition, a project he had worked on for months under the guidance of Westridge's composition teacher. It began softly, tentatively, like a distant memory struggling to come into focus. Then it built, theme by theme, into something rich and complex and beautiful. Sophia had watched it evolve from rough sketches to the powerful piece it had become. But hearing it now in this hall with Oliver playing with such conviction, moved her in a way she hadn't expected. She glanced out at the audience and found Mr. Harrington in the front row, exactly where he said he'd be. Even from the wings, she could see the tears on his cheeks, the pride in his expression as he watched his son bring music to life. When the final notes faded, there was that breathless moment of silence that always precedes great applause. Then the audience was on its feet, the sound of their appreciation filling the hall. Oliver stood and bowed, his face alight with joy. As the applause continued, the dean returned to the stage carrying something in his hands. He spoke into the microphone, his voice cutting through the fading applause. "Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to present the Westridge Young Composer Award to Oliver Harrington for his exceptional composition, Mother's Memory." Fresh applause erupted as the dean handed Oliver a crystal trophy. Sophia gasped. Oliver hadn't mentioned being nominated for any award. From his surprised expression, it seemed he hadn't known either. After more photographs and congratulations, Oliver finally made his way backstage, trophy in hand. His face flushed with excitement. "Did you know about this?" he asked Sophia, holding up the award. "Not a word," she admitted, hugging him. "But it's so well-deserved, Oliver. That piece was extraordinary." "Indeed it was," came another voice as Mr. Harrington joined them backstage. "Your mother would have been speechless." He embraced his son tightly, then stepped back, clearing his throat. "I have something to tell you both. I've been waiting for the right moment, and I think this is it." Sophia and Oliver exchanged curious glances. "I've established a foundation," Mr. Harrington said, "the Claire Harrington Foundation for Musical Education. It will provide scholarships for talented young musicians who might not otherwise have access to quality instruction, and I'd like both of you to be involved." Oliver's face lit up. "Really? That's amazing, Dad." "Sophia," Mr. Harrington continued, turning to her, "I'd like you to serve as the Foundation's program director once you complete your degree next month. You have a rare gift for recognizing and nurturing talent. I can't think of anyone better suited to the role." Sophia stared at him, stunned. "Mr. Harrington, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Oliver urged, grinning. "Think of all the kids who could learn music like I did." Sophia's mind raced. A foundation, a chance to help young musicians who, like herself years ago, might have to abandon their dreams due to circumstances beyond their control. It was more than a job offer. It was a calling. "Yes," she said finally, her voice thick with emotion. "I would be honored." Later that evening, after the reception had ended and the concert hall had emptied, Sophia found herself back on the stage, sitting at the grand piano where Oliver had performed his triumph. Her fingers moved over the keys, not playing, just feeling their smooth coolness beneath her fingertips. 2 years ago, she had been a maid with abandoned dreams, cleaning rooms in a mansion owned by a man who had closed himself off from the world. Now here she was, about to complete her music degree, being offered the chance to change young lives through music, all because she had taken a risk, had seen the potential in a blind boy who wanted nothing more than to play the piano. "Deep thoughts?" Mr. Harrington's voice came from the auditorium. He walked down the center aisle toward the stage, his footsteps echoing in the empty hall. Sophia smiled. "Just reflecting on how life can change so completely, so quickly." He nodded, climbing the steps to join her on stage. "Claire used to say that music had that power, to transform, to heal, to connect people across all boundaries." He glanced around the empty concert hall. "I didn't understand what she meant until recently." "Oliver helped you remember," Sophia said gently. "Oliver, and you." Mr. Harrington's expression was serious now. "What you did, teaching him in secret all those months, it was brave. Foolish, perhaps, but brave. You risked your livelihood to give my son something I was too afraid to let him have." "I just saw his potential," Sophia said simply. "You saw more than that. You saw him, not as the blind son of a wealthy man, but as a person with gifts waiting to be discovered." Mr. Harrington sighed. "It took me far too long to see that myself." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the empty concert hall around them like a cathedral to music. "Have you told Oliver about the Foundation's headquarters?" Mr. Harrington asked finally. Sophia shook her head. "I thought you might want to do that." Mr. Harrington smiled. "I've purchased the old Mercer building downtown. It has wonderful acoustics, according to the architects. The main performance space will be called the Oliver Harrington Concert Hall." Sophia raised her eyebrows. "He'll be embarrassed." Probably, Mr. Harrington agreed with a small laugh. But someday he'll understand what it means. To create a legacy. To build something that will outlast us. As they left the concert hall together, Sophia thought about legacy. About how a simple decision, to teach a boy to play piano against his father's wishes, had set in motion events she could never have foreseen. About how music had rebuilt a broken family, had given new purpose to all their lives. Oliver was waiting for them outside, his face turned up to the night sky he couldn't see but could feel. "There you are," he said as they approached. "I was thinking, could we go for ice cream to celebrate? Like a normal family after a recital?" Mr. Harrington laughed, a free, genuine sound that would have been unimaginable a year ago. "Ice cream it is. Though I'm not sure anything about our family will ever be normal," Oliver grinned. "Normal is overrated anyway." As they walked to the car together, Sophia felt a deep sense of rightness settle over her. The path ahead was clear now, filled with purpose and possibility. A foundation to build, young musicians to discover and nurture, a future bright with promise. All because she had seen potential where others saw limitation, had found courage when it would have been easier to stay